Welcome back to Was It That Bad, the series where we look at some albums that were quite hated in their moment of release and decide if they were in fact that bad.
Today we're going to be looking at BLINK-182's California. This was released in 2016 and it was the first album that they released without Tom DeLonge.
Matt Skiba joined the band formerly of Alkaline Trio and he's back with Alkaline Trio now. But should we jump straight into California with the first track, which is Cynical?
This is a very somber intro to the album, isn't it? It's got somewhat of like an ethereal feeling to it, and it kind of kicks straight into Travis with the classic drums that we've known to love from Travis, and I think it sounds great.
See, I don't think it was particularly somber. I actually thought it was a relatively energetic start to the album. Maybe the first couple seconds of the track, but generally I thought it was a welcome back to Blink after so long.
I think it was because it was bass chords, wasn't it? With there's a cynical feeling, and it's the whole vibe of the track is cynical, and there's the weird feeling going on. But then when Travis kicks in, that's when the energy kicks up.
I really liked the kind of background screams of I'm sorry, I'm not sorry now.
It's
the fact that it switches to I'm not sorry now. I thought that was a good line.
Not sorry, I'm not sorry. I think that's great. And I also think it's a really good introduction for Matt Skiba, because we've got to remember this is the first time that we're hearing him ever perform a Blink-182 song. When you listen to this album, this is the first track, so I think that is a phenomenal way to introduce him.
And the second song on the album is the biggest, and in Bored to Death.
I feel like the drums on this intro are very reminiscent of Feeling This. It's just got that same kind of vibe, and this is easily the biggest track, like you say, and for good reason, because it's such a banger.
It's one of the catchiest on the album as well. I find myself singing along to the chorus all the time. My favourite part of Bored to Death is actually towards the end when Mark does a bit more of a spoken wordy like little verse. I think that switched up the track nicely, but I can see why this was good. The only thing I didn't like about it particularly was all the R's at the end, and we get that on a lot of tracks.
The I've got written down that I really liked it because I thought it was perfect for Matt, and also when we've seen Blink-182, we've seen Tom perform that, and it works great for both of them, which also kind of makes you realise how good of a replacement Matt was for Tom in the lineup.
Oh, 100%. I just think having listened to this album in the past, I know there's so many O's and R's. Maybe I was overly listening for it in this early stage of the album, but we'll move on to the next song, which is She's Out of Her Mind.
A lovely little bass tone on the guitar from the get-go. That and the notes from the guitar and the drum beat feel so familiar. They feel really, I want to say comfy and cozy. They feel like classic Blink. It feels like, okay, here we are. This is a Blink album. Let's continue.
I thought the vocalists, being Mark and Matt, felt comfortable, felt intertwined on this song. They did on other tracks, but this is the first time where I really was like, all right, this is kicking now. Both parties are doing a really good job. Really, really catchy again. And it reminded me of older Blink, if that makes sense. Like this could be on Take Off Your Pants and Jacket and fit in quite well.
Yeah, I think there's another really strong chorus on this, and it kind of proves that even without Tom DeLonge, they're still capable of writing really catchy tracks, and all-round decent track. And we move off that onto Los Angeles, which has a really interesting intro. It's kind of like a reggae snare almost.
This is a little bit more electronic in my head is how I see it. It almost reminds me of a similar project that Mark did around the time, which was Simple Creatures. Has a lot of similarities between those two. I liked this, but I thought it was the most one-dimensional song so far, and it is the first on our tour of California.
Yeah, there's a weird like remixing of the voice after like one of the choruses. I can't remember which one it is, but there was a lot of stuff going on where I thought it's clear that they're going for a more electronic infused track. That's the kind of vibe that they're going for, like you were saying, but I don't know if they nailed it quite. I feel like they haven't committed enough. They've just added a few elements. If they went fully out and said, we're going to be a fully electronic track on this one, it would have been better.
I actually thought there was some nice moments where the vocals, especially the long kind of overreaching Los Angeles, and then the song kicks back in. There was parts of the track I liked. It just didn't entertain me that much.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I thought the track was really good. And to this point in the album, I'm starting to think like, why did people not like this? But we'll move off onto a more sobering thought in Sober.
And that is why people didn't like this so much. I think this is by far the worst track so far. Really one-dimensional. So many na-na-na-na-nas.
Nah. It's like, come on, man. Yeah, we get it, your nana. Whatever. Stop talking about her. We don't need to hear about her anymore.
I thought this was a real letdown. I was on the same page as you. Up to this point, I was like, yeah, banger, banger, banger. Really enjoying this. And yeah, it killed my vibe a little.
I've got down that the whole track feels lacking for lack of a better word. I didn't have a better word than there's something missing from the track, but then we go on to a really, really fun, really short track in Built This Pool, which I adore.
Where are the naked dudes?
Where are the naked dudes?
Where are they?
I don't know. We need to build a pool. That's what needs to happen.
Get building right now. This is just a little skit. Old Blink, having fun. Love to see it.
And right at the end there, is that really it? It was just a chef's kiss on top. That was the perfect ending to that track. So we'll jump straight off it onto No Future.
Yeah, I really liked the way that this track went from quite calm sections into just hitting you with a load of energy, especially after the last proper track being a bit of a letdown. This brought things up again.
Yeah, the intro kind of makes me feel like the track was going to go in a different direction. And then when it actually kicked in, I was kind of like whiplash almost, where I was like, whoa, hang on, is this the same song? It felt very different. But I did think that Matt sounded particularly good on this track.
And about 2 minutes in, it completely changed the entire sound of the track, which again is impressive for them to do, but kept me interested throughout the entire song. But up next is Home Is Such a Lonely Place.
This, again, has got like kind of a different intro to anything else that we've heard on the album so far. And there's some really nice Mark vocals on this track. And his singing just sounds really good. And for Mark, I mean, granted, BLINK-182 don't have the most professional vocalists in the world, but I thought his singing, in the intro especially, was really good on this track.
I think both of them harmonise quite well on this song. And it's really simple, calm rolling drums, nice lyrics, something you can just have on and chill. And it did feel like a moment that we needed in the album to break things up and relax a little bit.
Yeah, when I first heard this album, I didn't really vibe with this track. I didn't think it was that good. And that's because it wasn't immediately energetic. And I'm a bit of a sucker for when I'm listening to an album that I want to be energetic, if they have a somber track in it, I think, But now with more listens under my belt, I genuinely think this is a really beautiful track.
And if you are a Blink-182 fan, in fact, if you're a California fan, leave a comment and tell us your favourite track off this album. But up next, Tim, is Kings of the Weekend.
Very weak intro for what then turns into a really good track.
I thought it sounded like it had been recorded in a really echoey room, especially the reverb on the drum. I wasn't quite sure how I felt about it initially. To me, to be honest, this was just a pretty stereotypical run-of-the-mill pop-punk track. Not bad, didn't hate it, not amazing, didn't love it.
See, I think this is like a hidden gem in the lineup of these tracks because there's just something about it that I really bond with. The chorus is an absolute belter, in my opinion, and also the bass tone is particularly juicy. I think any track that features the bass predominantly is going to get an extra point from me. But I was quite fond of the bridge as well with the build-up to the outro, and there was just a lot going on. And yeah, I think this is genuinely like a better track off the album.
I think it's just okay. So we'll move on to the next track in Teenage Satellites. I thought this was much better. I really enjoyed the feel of this. If anything, it reminded me of Neighbourhood's era Blink, and that's one of my favourite eras of theirs. What did you think?
This feels like the most alkaline trio track off the album. It feels like Matt's probably had the most influence on this.
Do you know what I love? Every time we do any kind of video around Blink-182, we mention every band related to them in some way, shape or form. I'm waiting for Plus 44 and Boxcar to come up. And then we're good. But no, this was really anthemic. It felt quite light in comparison to a lot of the other tracks in terms of it was happier, although it kind of wasn't in its lyrical content. A lot of woes again, though, at the end. I don't know if it was just because I've heard this album before, but I just kept picking up on all the woes.
I think the woes on this track were particularly good. They didn't feel forced, whereas on other tracks, like we spoke about, the na-na-na-na-na-na-nas, they become too much, and you're just like, okay, we get it, that's fine. But this track in particular, I thought that Matt's first vocal line is great, like some amazing delivery, but I felt like this track could have been done, like, cutting down a minute off the end.
That's what I'm saying about the woes.
Instead of being like 3 minutes long, it could have ended at 2 minutes, and I think it would have been an even better track. But that doesn't say that this is a bad track. I do like this one as well.
Well, Tim, would you want to be left alone?
Well, I don't know. Would you?
What?
I don't know. Would you?
No, not really. I don't like being alone that much. Anyway, that track, Left Alone, is snappy, energetic, straight to the point, does what it needs to do, and I move on. I don't think there's much more to say about it.
Are we halfway gone, or are we halfway there? And then kicking, na, 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 na. I thought that was great. I think that's amazing. I also really like the ba, 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 da, da, ba, da, because all the instruments follow it. And then when the vocals drop out, the instruments still do that kind of drop in steps. And I think it's great songwriting.
I thought it was good, but it didn't. I didn't love it as much as you clearly did.
Matt sounded particularly Tom-like on this track. I felt like he was really stepping into the boots a bit too much. I was like, all right, we get it. You are replacing Tom, but you don't need to be Tom.
It's like when you're talking about your exes, isn't it? And you're like, well, they have the same. They're doing the same thing that they used to do. Up next is Rabbit Hole.
Who is Mr. Deerhead? That's what I want to know. Who's Deerhead?
I have no idea.
A deer-headed man. Who is this man?
But Rabbit Hole was one of the singles from this album. And I remember in high school sneakily listening to this in my IT lesson with a wired headphone up my sleeve, sat like that so I could actually listen to it.
The classic technique.
Yeah, but I have reminiscent value with this track. I think maybe it's not actually one of the best on the album, but in my head it is. Energetic chorus. It's just fun.
Yeah, Travis Strumming does a lot on this track to keep the energy up, and I think that he is actually somewhat carrying the track as a whole. I think without him doing what he's doing, probably would have been a bit boring.
I quite like the way the energetic chorus goes into with you again. I liked that section of the track. I'm trying not to be too biased with it. It's good. I don't think it's one of Blink's best ever, though.
I used to really, really like this track, but the more listens I have, unlike a few of the other tracks where I've grown to love them more, I've actually started to dislike this more, and I actually think it could do with a good 30 seconds cutting out of it as well.
Well, Tim, we've been to Los Angeles. Now it's time to go to San Diego.
With another chill intro. We're back to that again, and the build-up from the chorus from Matt is fantastic. I think this is a great track.
There was also a Cure mention in this, one of the legendary British bands. Again, I feel like I'm kind of running out of things to say here, and maybe this is an issue. A lot of the tracks I think are just decent. Mm-hmm. They're just good, but none of them are making me get really, really excited about it. Maybe that's to this album's detriment.
I think with this track, I can't help but sing along with it, but that's just because I've heard it so many times. But I think this track definitely deserves more love. So in what you're saying there, I think that's a little bit mean.
But you've been really nice to pretty much every song.
I think it's because it's nostalgic, reminiscent value. Because I remember when this came out, I listened to it so much, and I didn't really have in my head, oh, Tom DeLonge's not in the band anymore. All I had was a new Blink project. So I was really excited about it. By the time 9 came around, I was more like, oh, this is Matt Skiba, it's not Tom DeLonge. But this album really felt like Blink.
I think they mastered the catchy chorus thing, but that is a lot of what it is for many of the songs. The only part of it that I think is really standout is the catchy chorus. But we'll go on to album thoughts in a minute. Up next is The Only Thing That Matters.
It's crazy to me that this is the track with the least listens to on the album.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Don't get me wrong. It is somewhat throwaway, as we'd class it, but it's definitely an album track, but no more than some of the other tracks have been. I think this one is actually substantially better than a couple.
See, we keep switching up here. I said this is the best track in a minute.
Oh, really?
I thought the way that the instruments all worked with each other and seemed to just go in unison. I don't know. It felt like it was a track in flow state where everyone in the band just got in the studio and it just went perfectly. First time, and they all enjoyed it. The drumming was fantastic. The vocals were good. I really liked this track.
Yeah, it doesn't overstay its welcome, definitely, and it adds a nice upbeat tick to the album at this point. But we'll move off that onto California with another ethereal intro.
See, I just imagine now we've been to LA, we've drove to San Diego, and now we're getting the plane out of California as they're writing this song, and it's okay. It's calmer. It's quite a relaxed way to end the album. I liked it. I actually thought it was really weird that it then went on to Bohemian Rhapsody up next. I would have just preferred it if the album fizzled out after California.
Do you not think with California, though, even without Tom being there, this feels like the most Angels and Airwaves song on the... I know we said we mentioned every other band. This genuinely feels like the most Angels and Airwaves kind of vibe.
I think maybe so. The best thing about this song was the way that it built up the energy and swelled into that one moment. So I can see why you're getting Angels and Airwaves from it. I don't have that. I didn't hear that as much.
With it being the titular track, though, with it being called California, an album called California, I expected a lot more, and this just isn't it. This just doesn't reach that height. And also, the na-na-nas about halfway through feel really forced. It's another throwaway.
And we're on to Bohemian Rhapsody as the last track on the album, and it's just another little 30-second skit. But the actual instrumental is insane.
I think it's a great outro to the album, personally. I think it really just kind of says, don't forget, we're BLINK-182. If you ended on California, it would have been like, oh, that's a strange ending. With this, it's just like, bang, here you go. This is who we are. This is how we're going to be.
I think in the flow of an album, ending on California would have just made more sense. Like, yeah, it's Blink and they like to throw stuff like that in there. Makes sense. It was actually very good. I wish that was a full track with that instrumental.
And there's something about you that I just can't quite put my finger in. I think that's a great joke. It is a great joke because you don't expect that to happen. And right at the end, it's like, ha ha ha, we're still Blink-182. We're still fucking around, don't worry.
Well, after the end, what do you think to the album as a whole, Tim?
I listened to this a lot when I was younger, so I have a lot of reminiscent value from it. And I thought going back, I would be hearing it in a way that I'd be like, oh no, this isn't actually that good. I was just overhyping it at the time. I think it's gotten better with age. I genuinely do think this isn't that bad of an album. For Blink-182, perhaps it doesn't quite reach the heights of some of their other albums, but as an album, as a pop punk album, I think it's phenomenal.
I think a lot of people were ready to hate on this at the time because it was without Tom DeLonge. And that makes sense. Obviously, people have been fans of Blink for decades and wanted to see the original lineup return. I agree with you. I would go as far to say that California is better than One More Time. One More Time? Yeah. I nearly said One More Light. There's too many one mores going around in my head. California is better than One More Time. And I don't even really think it's that close, to be honest. As sad as that is, as angry as OG Blink fans might get that I'm saying an album with Matt Skiba is better than an album with Tom DeLonge, I think there's more songs that I would listen to on a regular basis on California.
Yeah, One More Time felt a lot more phoned in. It felt a lot more like they were trying to be old Blink. And don't get me wrong, with California, there are tracks on there that are like, we're still cool, we're still Blink. But the tracks that stand out more are the ones that are less reminiscent of the old Blink style, where they've kind of gone, you know what, we are somewhat of a new band now, so let's try some new things. And I think it works.
But then to be completely honest, I do think there were a few songs that were quite throwaway, where half I would probably quite like to listen to. Maybe 5 or 6 tracks off this album I'd be quite happy to never hear again. None were offensively bad, which is always a positive. None were like, oh, turn this off right now. But there was a couple where I was quite happy when it was ending. But at the same time as saying that, even those had quite catchy moments and good musical talent on show throughout in moments.
I think a lot of the deep cuts on this album definitely deserve more listens than they've got. I think there's a definite weighting of the album in terms of listens that I think is unfair. I think a lot of the tracks that have less listens deserve more, and I would argue that some of the tracks that have more listens deserve less, but that's mostly because of singles. But I think for a first project for Matt to be on, he absolutely smashed it out of the park. He came with the vocals, he came with the guitar work. I think he did a great job. And
it was actually better than 9, the second projects that they did together, in my opinion. So really, they should have stuck with that California blueprint. But Tim, the all-important question is, was California really that bad?
I don't think so. I really don't think it was that bad. What would you say?
No, I think it was actually quite good. Looking back at it, I enjoyed many elements of it. Maybe we do have that reminiscent value now, and that always helps with music, doesn't it? When you've got some memories tied to it and you've seen a couple of the songs live. Maybe also the fact that Tom's back in the band makes it easier to say and be frank about the fact that it wasn't that bad. But what would you give it out of 10?
For me, I'm going in with a solid 6.5. I did kind of skirt on a 7, but I thought, in comparison to the rest of the discography, I think a 6.5 is very fair.
I'm just below you. I'm at 6 out of 10. And I think that's a pretty accurate score. I don't think there's many people that would argue with that.
No, not at all. And if there is, they're just hating on it because Tom DeLonge isn't on the album, and that's unfair.
Well, if you've enjoyed this video, please do leave your thoughts on California in the comments, and remember to hit like and subscribe.
Thank you very much for watching.